Hello everyone, this is Hakaym and welcome back to some more World of Warships, and I'm finally here to show off the tier 10 British TD, the Daring. And I will have to say, I've been having issues with either the Daring itself or the replays. I've been having issues with both, actually. I am joined with Formal in the Conqueror, and obviously we are playing on Land of Fire. And as you can see, mostly a tier 10 match. Alright, let's go ahead and start off with kind of the main issue. Now, I did actually have a couple games with the Daring, which I thought were really good. Showed a lot about it, decent amount of damage. You know, us YouTubers really want to get that high damage in game because it's exciting. Granted, we kind of give the illusion that in World of Warship, that's what you want to do, is get those high damage games. Yes, it is nice, it's fun, it's fantastic, but at the exact same time, you also kind of need to do your job as well. So I did have some replays, but due to the fact that Wargaming now has this replay thing where it actually only keeps track of a certain amount of replays, and it will actually delete any old replays, and therefore the replay that I was going to show off with the Daring, which was a very good game but unfortunately ended in a defeat, is no longer with us. So I am showing off this game. Still a decent game, did a really good job as far as doing the objective, which as a destroyer is really what you should be doing. So let's talk about the Daring. Daring is actually not a bad ship. She's a fairly strong, competent ship. She obviously is the British destroyer, where she has no speed boost, and she has that very quick engine acceleration. Now, unbeknownst to us, we do have a Minotaur, and this Minotaur is, lo and behold, a radar Minotaur. So obviously, very bad idea. Need to start turning away. So going to try to do that. Do have our torpedoes reloaded, and this is probably one thing about the Daring compared to maybe some of the other tier 10s. Her torpedoes they're not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. They're not terrible. They are 10-kilometer range torpedoes. They hit pretty hard. They have a decent detect, very similar to, I believe, the Garings in a lot of ways. But for the most part, it's generally not what you're really going to be doing. They do have the single fire torpedoes, but it's not the whole point of the Daring. The main point of the Daring is to take out the enemy DDs, and she does a really fantastic job. Now, I have finally decided to get IFHE with the Daring, and it does help, because these are 113mm caliber shells, and they just generally don't do that massive amount of damage. But against, say, USN cruisers, your AP is actually very strong indeed. Can easily do 1 to 2 point K damage if you get that center of the ship. Daring smokes up after taking a torp, very low in health, and there we go, earn first blood. And lo and behold, we are being, I believe, hydroed, because as we can see, there is a Yuyong and a Z-52 coming within range. And once again, nice thing about the Daring is she has very quick acceleration. And due to the fact that you don't need, or you can't get, the engine boost module, or sorry, the acceleration module, you opt for the rudder shift, and it makes her very agile. Granted, she's still kind of a fat boat. Probably my own main issue with her is she is kind of a fat boat. So her detects it's decent. It's not as good as the Gearing. It's not as good as the Shimakaze. It's better than the German, better than the Hargumo, better than obviously the USSR. It's 6 kilometers, so not too bad. AA's not overly impressive, nothing too major to talk about. She does have Hydro, which is the standard British Hydro, which is only 3 km. Now, I do actually run the extension, the I don't want to say it's legendary, but the module that you can actually switch out to increase the duration time of the Hydro, which I think is beneficial. I think it can make you a little bit more viable, especially when dealing with being in the areas against other destroyers with dealing with torpedoes. And we actually almost get a torpedo hit on that Hindenburg. Now at the moment, the enemy team pretty much has lemming trained over to the ACAP, and for the most part our friendly team's actually going to manage to take out all the ships on the eastern side. So with that being said, I'm actually gonna play the objective, and I'm quickly gonna try to go towards C. Now one main issue with the Daring is she's not particularly fast. I think at the very most you can get her up to around 35 to 36 knots, and that's without a engine boost. So with the engine boost you can get her up a little bit faster, and I would recommend getting the engine boost because it's gonna make your life a little bit easier. But unfortunately for me, Clan Wars is in fact, and well, I kind of need all the speed flags on my Henry at the moment, so kind of not wasting any of my speed flags at the moment. So unfortunately the Daring doesn't have a speed flag, but she's not particularly fast. There are other cruisers in the game that obviously can outspeed her, and it's not just the Henry. So that's my main issue. My other main issue is she seems to take a lot of damage very, very quickly. Now she does have a heal, and as you can see, as we're about to pop our last heal here, it can be quite surprising how quickly your health just seems to drain very, very quickly. Do dot torpedoes, kind of hoping maybe get some torpedoes on the enemy Z-52 Yu Yang, who is currently fighting our gearing. Go ahead and open up on the Z-52. Now yes, I could probably be firing AP, but any destroyer captain with any sense will probably obviously just turn bow in. That's the main issue with the Daring, is her AP against bow targets pretty much useless, so therefore your HE is really where you kind of need to go. Now against cruisers, watch how quickly this Hindenburg's health actually starts to go down. And there we go, actually get a devastating strike on the enemy Yu Yang. Do get a fire on the Hindenburg, and these guns reload very quickly. One nice thing about the Daring is her gun rate, her DPM is just magnificent, and she has a higher fire chance as well. So even though, granted, our damage is not overly amazing, sometimes around 913, we're still getting really good damage against this Hindenburg and just downright melting him. And once again, that Hydro is very beneficial. Z-52 has dropped torpedoes, so we are obviously going behind the island, breaking line of sight, and we're going to try to finish off this Hindenburg. The Hindenburg is very low in health, so very easily and capable to take him out. And once again, the British destroyers have that very quick reload on the smoke generator, so easily get around this corner, smoke up, and possibly deal with this enemy Hindenburg. So go ahead and do that, and lo and behold, there is the enemy Minotaur. And keep in mind, this Minotaur is in fact a radar Minotaur, but that's not going to stop us, because one nice thing about the Daring is she is very nimble, very surprisingly nimble, and that is actually our third kill of the game. Focusing on the enemy Minotaur, do get behind the island, are still spotted by the enemy Montana, and fortunately Wargaming has in fact nerfed battleship AP against destroyers, because, well, this Montana really doesn't like us. Right there, could have easily killed us had it been prior to the update, but fortunately we are still alive and still capable of doing damage. Yu Yang, don't exactly know why, probably wasn't expecting the radar from the Minotaur. Z-52 comes around the corner, and once again, the Daring against other destroyers, it's really fantastic. Like, that's what its job is. Granted, it doesn't have the Hydro of the Yu Yang, but it does have that DPM. AP is fantastic. My only other main complaint of the daring is the arcing of the shells is quite dramatic. There we go, get kill number 4 on that. Most of our kills were against destroyers, in fact, and once again, that's kind of what the daring is really good at. But main issue, once again, is the fact that her shell velocity is quite terrible, especially when dealing with targets at a little bit further distance and are a little bit quick, so you do have to provide a lot of lead. Now, unfortunately for the enemy team, they're not doing particularly hot. They're actually about to lose. We do have 3 caps, and in about a minute and 12 seconds we're about to win this. And unfortunately for me, I'm not really going to be able to do much else. Probably could have actually just slowed up and started bombarding this Montana, try and get some fire damage. And once again, the HE, even with the Eye of HE, makes her very, very viable. So I do recommend it now. I played it quite a few times. That I would say that is a very good option to go with, especially with the size of caliber of your shells. But with that, that's pretty much going to be it for this game, as we're just about to win right about now. So, not a bad game-ish. So we do earn a victory, brought home 261,255 silver, 3,734 XP. We earn First Blood and Devastating Strike. We did a decent amount of damage. Most of our damage was against destroyers, 47,710. Not a very high damaging game, and this is probably really coming down to streamers and YouTubers who play this game for you guys to watch and enjoy, and you really see these high nitro games where it's very exciting and doing a lot of damage, but sometimes you gotta play the objective, especially destroyers. You gotta play the objective. So granted, damage is not very high, but I did my job. I did what the daring is supposed to do, take out enemy destroyers as well as caps. So I will definitely take that. 121 shell hits, 1 torpedo hit, 4 kills, 4 fires, 1 flooding, 1 defeated base capture, and 1 captured base. We were top of the team with a base XP of 1,821. Most of our damage came from, in fact, the Hindenburg, which, if given the chance, the daring can actually quickly wear down a enemy cruiser. So do be extremely careful of the enemy daring. Now, our high explosive only did the majority of the damage. I actually fired majority of HE, 21,598, but do not discount the AP. Her AP against other destroyers, especially Gearings, Kabas, Grozovois, is really fantastic. So highly recommend the AP. Even against some cruisers, you can do fairly decent damage. But most times you will probably be firing the HE. Torpedoes did around 13,024 points of damage, and our fires only got around 7,027. So overall, not a bad game. Once again, more focused on the objectives, which, once again, destroyers really need to be aware of. That's your whole point, is playing the objective, more so than the cruisers and the battleships. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and jump into the port, take a quick look at the stats, and then go from there. See you guys there. Alright everyone, welcome back to the port, and like I said, Daring's actually a really good ship. I just personally don't much care for her. Honestly, she doesn't really stick out that much to me. I don't find her overly impressive. I will say she's a good ship. She has her strong points, she has her weaknesses, and she's not overly terrible to play. But I honestly don't have much care and love for her. She's maybe not as good as some community contributors said she was, in my opinion. She's kind of meh, kind of middle of the road, but that is my personal opinion. Do say that she is still good. So let's go ahead and take a look at the stats, but before we do that, let's actually compare her to the other destroyers of this game. So starting off, survivability, 20,800. And very interestingly enough, there we go, Actually, that's might be a bug right there. Her armor is only 20 millimeters compared to, say, the Gearing, a little bit thicker, 21 millimeters. Her armor is decent, not overly impressive, but probably my most main concern, and probably the Gearing's not overly best subject, is her health pool is just not particularly great. She's very comparative to the Girl Savoy, but compared to like the Yu Yang, the Kaba, the Harugumo, which are more of the gunboats, she does struggle, but she at least does have the heal. So the heal really does help out in a lot of ways. Moving on to her guns. As I did mention, she does run 113mm guns. They do have a very nice reload time of 2 seconds. They turn very quickly. They completely do a 360, so you don't have to worry about your guns rotating the other direction. They have a decent range of 12.8 kilometers. HE shells, if they actually penetrate, will do 1700 points of damage, where IFHE is really needed if you're wanting to use HE, or else your HE shells are just going to break. They're just that small caliber, and even destroyers have thicker armor than what your HE shells normally can penetrate. So IFHE is very beneficial, highly recommend it, especially when dealing with destroyers and even larger ships, or else your HE is just there to cause fires, which honestly the Daring has a very good fire chance, 8% after IFHE, 9% without it. And once again, the AP, moving on to the AP is kind of really where the Daring is really good, where it stands out, is the penetration value for it is much higher compared to many of the other destroyers. So you're able to pen at more angles than most of the other destroyers could. So you can use that AP to your advantage, and it does do really good damage because they are the semi-armor piercing AP shells that the British cruisers have. And as many people are well aware, British cruisers are really good at taking out enemy destroyers. So AP is really fantastic, but it is going to struggle a little bit against cruisers and battleships, where HE, you're gonna probably using more of it when dealing with cruisers and battleships. Velocity on the shells, main issue, 746 meters per second, very similar to, say, the Gearing. Gearing has 792. So if you're accustomed to the Gearing, you should be able to get more fairly accustomed to the Daring. Daring's shells are just a little bit slower in the air. I believe even the Yu Yang's velocity is the same as the Gearing, so a little bit slower. That's probably my main complaint, is just the velocity. But I mean, you easily can get accustomed to it. Just lead a little bit more, you'll be fine. Moving on to the torpedoes, they actually, like I said, they're decent, 16,767. Not as impressive as compared to some of the other destroyers, 17,900. I believe even the Harugumo has Shimikaze. I'm trying to think what the Kaba has. It's 19,500. Yeah, once again, Daring's not a torpedo boat. They are great. They'll do damage. They do have a 10-kilometer range. They have the same detect as Gearing torpedoes. They just don't have that range. And 62 knots isn't too shabby. Not overly impressive. Gearing has, I think, 66 knots for the 16.5 kilometer torpedoes, so they are a little bit slower. They don't do as much damage, but once again, the Daring is more of a gunboat than a torpedo boat, but they're there if you do need them. AA, yeah, the AA is not here. 76 average damage, 3.5 kilometer range, 64 5-kilometer range. Not overly impressive. You don't have a lot. They do semi-decent damage for a destroyer, but they're really not that beneficial. Now, one little side note, and I should have probably mentioned this, but the guns tend to get knocked out quite quickly and quite often. So do keep that in mind whenever playing the ship. Your guns are going to get knocked out a lot. So do be careful whenever playing the ship. Max speed 35 knots. not a fast destroyer. You are not going to be able to get in places very quickly, so you do have to plan and take note of your positioning quite often. Turning circle radius is decent, 630 meters. Rudder shift time is pretty fantastic, 3.7. I believe the gearing is a little bit better, 3.3, and this is without the rudder shift time for the gearing. Pretty certain. But against many of the other destroyers, Z52 has 3.9, Rosovoy has 4.6, so she's kind of middle of the road. And the real sad thing about it is the rudder shift time is 3.7 because of the fact that she doesn't have the acceleration, or sorry, she doesn't have the engine module that we'll be seeing, so you'll have to get the turning. So decent, she does have that decent turning circle radius, which is very beneficial. Concealment, decent, once again kind of middle of the road, 6 kilometer. Detectability range by air is 3.5 kilometer, and while firing at smoke is 2.6. Aim with that hydro that you do have, which is 3 kilometers, you can at least have about 400 meters of difference before being detected. Going to the upgrades, as I did mention, I do have the hydroacoustic search modification 1 on this. This obviously increases the action time of your hydroacoustics by 20%. I opted out of this, going for the hydroacoustic just because it is kind of strong. Like, I mean, having a longer duration hydro, granted, doesn't have that very long length, ensures your survival more so than your friendlies, but at least you can spot them if need be. As I did mention, you do have the steering gears modification 2 because the only other option is DamCom mod 2. Aiming system, main arms mod 1, concealment expert, and last but not least, main battery modification 3, because once again, you're more of a gunboat than a torpedo boat. As far as the consumables, they've been the same since the Jutland. You have the British smoke, the hydro, and the heal. The captain is a full 19-point captain. I have gone for priority target, last stand, adrenaline rush, superintendent, basics firing training. May not be overly impressive. I might actually eventually switch this out. This only reduces reload time by 10%. But it's 10% faster than it normally would be. So you could possibly opt this out, go for, say, survivability expert, make her a little bit more tankier, make her longer lasting. I might eventually actually switch that out. IFHE and concealment expert. Once again, IFHE really is going to prove beneficial. So I do recommend it after trying it out before and after. So to eventually get IFHE is gonna be proven beneficial. But anyways, this is gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what we saw, hit the like and subscribe button. You guys have a great and fantastic day. Zai Gen.